Hi, welcome to our presentation, Engaging with the Value Rubrics, an OER tool for assessment of student learning for the Open Education Conference 2021. My name is Jessica Chittum. I am the Director of Assessment and Pedagogical Innovation at AAC&U, which is the Association of American Colleges and Universities.
And my name is Britt Spears, and I'm a program coordinator in that same office.
So what are the value rubrics? This is the resource that we're sharing with you today. VALUE is an acronym for Valid Assessment of Learning in Undergraduate Education. And so as the title implies, these rubrics are intended for college students, undergraduate college students specifically. And there are 16 of them based on 16 learning outcomes, which we will share with you a little while later. But to provide some background, these rubrics can be used for institutional reporting needs. So for instance, for an entire Institute of Higher Education, they may use these for their institutional assessment, or a course instructor or even a program can use these for assessment.
And so something that's important to add here is that VALUE works to advance equitable practices in higher education in several ways. The VALUE rubrics are open educational resources that are available as free downloads on AAC&U's website. And from the very beginning, the rubrics have been available in both Word and PDF formats, which actually signals an important distinction between VALUE and other commercially available assessment tools. Institutions can either use the VALUE rubrics as written, or they can edit and customize them to meet their own unique needs. In this way, any institution, 2-year, 4-year, public or private, should be able to ensure that their students' learning is reflected in the VALUE rubrics, whichever they choose to use. Since 2014, over 615,000 individual VALUE rubrics have been downloaded at no cost by users from more than 2,700 colleges and universities in over 140 countries. And so now we're going to go over how to access the VALUE resources. So this might be a good page to screenshot or just jot down really quickly. And so the first thing we're going to show you all is some screenshots of how to navigate the VALUE website and get to those rubrics. And so this is what the page looks like with the VALUE rubrics. And what you're going to do here is go to the download instructions if you want to, or you can also just follow along with what I'm getting ready to say. Here is the list of all of the rubrics, the 16 rubrics, which are also our 16 learning outcomes, essential learning outcomes. And so what you will do is click on any of those that you want. And let's say you pick a PDF version. What you're going to do is either here or there. You're going to click PDF or doc. And then the next page that it's going to take you to is the checkout page. Now, something that's really important to see here is that the cost is $0.00. So some might say, well, why do we have a cart if it's free? Well, we like to collect some demographic information of the people who are downloading these rubrics just for us to track data in the future and be able to see who's using these as tools, who can we reach out to and have as partners in the future. And so after you go to update your cart, it's going to have you sign in here. So if you have an AAC&U account, which we hope you all do, which is a free account, you're going to sign in there. And if you don't, you can click on create a new account. All that's going to do after you sign in, you're going to submit your order and the download is going to come to you in the form that you chose, whether that be PDF or Word. And so now we're going to move into some of our assumptions.
So let's talk about what these VALUE rubrics are. So we have 5 assumptions for the VALUE rubrics. I'm just going to cover a few of them for you today in the interest of time. So first, the VALUE rubrics are intended to assess actual student work, because we feel that that student work completed as part of the student's curricula or the co-curricula requirements is most likely to represent their best and most motivated work. So as opposed to looking at, for instance, a single snapshot of a multiple choice test or a standardized test, we're looking at the assignments that they're completing as part of their experience in higher education. And these VALUE rubrics will assess that work on those 16 learning outcomes. The focus of the value assessment approach should be on what the students can do versus what students can't do. So we follow an assets-based approach to assessment rather than a deficit view. And then I'm going to skip down to this bottom one real quick. You can read the others on your own if you would like. And we are focusing here on the expert judgment of faculty. and other educators when we are evaluating students' work with these rubrics, as opposed to something, less based on the assessment's viewpoint, like expert's viewpoint, as opposed to like a multiple choice test that just has kind of a discrete right or wrong answer, that sort of thing.
And the next thing we have, this is an example of a rubric. So after you go through those steps that we just talked about and you're able to download the rubric, this is what you're going to see on the first page. So here at the top, you have your learning outcome, which will be one of those 16. Then you have your definition, then some framing language that kind of just explains, where we're coming from. It ties a little bit into why we picked this a little bit. And then last on the front page will be the glossary, which I think is very useful when you're using it to assess assignments and things of that nature, because it's very easy to connect it using some language that may have been used in the assignment or in the course, as well as looking at what you're trying to get out of this assignment.
So here's the second page of each rubric. Will look sort of like this. This is the example critical thinking that we've shown for you today. You'll see at the top, we have the learning outcome and the definition again. And then the rubric itself is here at the bottom. So I'm going to point out a few key features. So one, all 16 of our rubrics will have either 5 or 6 what we call dimensions. And basically, these are the things that we're assessing that a panel of experts who created each rubric decided were the 5 or 6 most important things to measure when measuring this learning outcome. And there may be other aspects of critical thinking, but in terms of developing these rubrics and thinking about them as measurable within the context that they are being applied undergraduate education, these are the things that they landed on. So explanation of issues, evidence, influence of context and assumptions, those are some examples of dimensions of critical thinking specifically. Then we have these 4 levels, performance levels. This is starting with capstone level 4. Then we move from capstone level 4 down to 2 milestones, level 3, and then level 2, and then down to the benchmark level 1. I'm going to point out some important things here. First, we start at that capstone level when we're evaluating left to right, because we want to think again about the student's assets, not their deficits. So we're thinking about what would the ideal behavior be, for instance, what ideally would the student demonstrate in their work for capstone. And then if that's not present or something here is missing, then we would move down to the next level. And so what I'm pointing out here are the performance descriptors. So you can see that's down here. Each cell includes the performance descriptor. So for explanation of issues, this cell represents a capstone level 4. And so that's the best, the highest level that we have. And then we move down each level until we get to actually level 0, which isn't shown here because we don't often score level 0, but we do make room for that. So if, for instance, there was no evidence whatsoever that the student explained the issue in their sample of student work, then we could give this single dimension a 0 because that evidence was lacking. And finally, we wanted to point out one more value-related resource. And so now we're thinking about, okay, we're going to assess student work. So we have to have assignments in place that students do their work for, and then we assess them with the value rubric. This will actually help educators design the assignments with those learning outcomes in mind, with the value learning outcomes and the value rubrics in mind. So they are the value add or the assignment design and diagnostic tools. So these were developed to help you ensure that your assignment aligns with your learning outcomes and the associated value rubric. And the first tool that we've developed is the critical thinking value add tool, which is aligned with the critical thinking value rubric. So that can help you in designing an assignment, or for instance, let's say you already have an assignment and you just want to tweak it so you know that you can measure critical thinking with that tool, then this tool will help you do that as well. So finally, we are working on a critical thinking rubric right now. Sorry, not a critical thinking. We're working on a written communication value add tool presently, and that should be available sometime soon. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Here is our information, which will also be on the presentation resources that we provide as part of this video.